on them. So again, I got to give that one to Hotform.
Yeah, both players with Druid as well. Druid is the most popular class in this tournament. And for game one, we are going to see Zoro playing his Paladin against Hotform's Tempo Mage.
All right, so that's going to be a secret Paladin versus Tempo Mage. And the Tempo Mage he's playing is very specific to him. He's playing double mirror images, I believe, and one unstable portal, Sarada, as you mentioned. Is the deck that good?
So obviously Tempo Mage is a huge point of contention, I think, in the competitive scenes. Because you may agree or disagree with me on this, but a lot of players think it's entirely too random. There's too much variance. You cannot actually rely on it to perform very well. In the other camp, players like Jab and Hotform have sworn up and down that this deck can be very good and very consistent based on the fact that there are some things you can rely on, right? Spellslinger, random spells, but you get the 3/4 body. Unstable portal, you're always going to get a minion that is technically cheaper than what you would have paid otherwise. So I tend to err on the side that I think this is a very solid deck, mostly because of Flamewaker. Flamewaker's ability to really hinder the board of aggro players, I think it makes it extremely reliable and solid.
Yeah, sometimes you draw too many spells early on and it might not curve out that nicely. Playing Mana Worm on turn 1 versus not playing a Mana Worm on turn 1. There's a huge difference that Mana Worm can easily chip up to maybe 8 or even 10 damage. And here we see that all spell hand from Hotform. The Unstable Portal kind of counts as a minion, right?
Yeah, it is kind of like a minion, especially if you get a free mana minion, you can play it for free, so you get a really good value there. But Zoro got a Knife Juggler into Master for Battle, so a really good opening. And how do you guys feel about this matchup? Because I think if Mage gets that Flamewaker that you mentioned, Robert, Mage will be in a good position, but if he misses the Flamewaker, Paladin can actually expand his board and rush the Mage down.
I think it's important for the Tempo Mage, and we see this in Hotform pointing out the Apprentice, name escapes right now, but we see that he's really prepared for the aggressive start. And I think so long as he keeps that in mind and he's constantly trying to play not greedy, that's the biggest thing. I don't think he can afford to play greedy in this matchup because all of a sudden the board snowballs out of control and then he's in a bad spot. So I think so long as he keeps that in mind, which it seems he's doing thus far, I think he'll be in a good spot. He can Unstable Portal and Flame Cannon this turn, which is great.
Whoa, Dreadsteed against Paladin, which most likely doesn't have any way to remove it. So as soon as Hotform plays that minion, it will be there till the end. Great Sorcerer's Apprentice from Hotform on turn 1, getting amazing value from it. Discounts on 2 spells this turn, potentially at least on 1 on the following turn as well.
And because he also got the Dreadsteed, he can think about not attacking. It might be Noble Sacrifice, so he might not want to lose the 3/2 here, especially because he gets Arcane Intellect on next turn for 2 mana, and then a possible Frostbolt as well, if there is a second Juggler maybe, or something we can remove.
I think it's worth looking at his Dreadsteed now and trying to figure out how this is going to work in this game, because obviously the Paladin Hero Power allows him to create 1/1 minions, and Dreadsteed can just trade out over and over for 1/1s. So we might actually see it get a lot of value. Obviously, when you take into account stuff like Avenge, Redemption, Noble Sacrifice, it might not get as much value, but there's still a lot of value in having this small horse that's just eating away at your 1/1s.
Absolutely.
Definitely an easy way to deal with something like that, like the Noble Sacrifice that Zoro has right now. Hotform picking up another Sorcerer's Apprentice, but this might not be the time for it. I think this turn could be the Dreadsteed turn.
Yeah, Dreadsteed and Mad Scientist, maybe. You will not be able to attack really this. If you attack with the 3/2, it will die to the Noble Sacrifice. So probably you don't really want to do anything. Frostbolt can help you with the Secret Keeper. He decides some attacks here, so the 3/2 is going to die to the Noble Sacrifice.
Yeah. He's going to make the attack. There was a possibility that the secret was something else than the Noble Sacrifice, and in that case, Hotform would have been rewarded for that attack.
What could have possibly been? He's seen Juggler dying before the Noble Sacrifice, because
Avenge?
It could have been Avenge.
Even against Avenge, I think it would have been fine for the Shielded Minibot to get buffed in that situation.
Yeah.
And here Zoro with 4 mana, Shielded Minibot getting an easy trade on the Mad Scientist, has his Redemption and a Gog Hammer to follow it up.
Yeah, the Redemption is really good because not only if it hits the Shielded Minibot, it will come back with the shield. Secret Keeper is being buffed right now to a 2/3 minion.
So this is interesting now because Dreadsteed will basically just stay on the board the whole game.
Yeah.
Because there's no point to trading with it. You can't get rid of it unless Zoro finds a silence. It's just going to keep being there to ping Divine Shields, pick off 1/1. So it may not seem like the biggest thing right now, but over the course of this game, again, there's going to be a lot of value coming from this Dreadsteed.
Absolutely. This game is not going to end in the next 3 turns. This Dreadsteed is staying till dinner.
There's the Fire Blast, finishing off Secret Keeper. Not too much value for Zoro from that Redemption. Pilot Shredder, definitely a good pickup here. You could also found a 5-drop, which maybe a low tap would have been even better, but Pilot Shredder, one of the better cards.
Yeah, this deck is not playing that many 5-drops, right? It's like Slash Belcher, 1 copy, Lothar.
Lothar, yeah. But pretty much just that. So I don't know if there's any real decision here.
Yeah,
Oh, he's going to go for the Master for Battle. Wants to get those minions.
With Master for
As
Battle,
many as he can. It does allow him to also hero power.
it is actually mana efficient, and he's putting the same amount of power supposedly on board, 4 attack. And then next turn, if he doesn't pick up anything specific, he'll be able to play Pilot Shredder with the hero power as well.
Yeah, probably the reason why he didn't go for the Pilot Shredder is the secret from Hotform, which could have been that mirror entity.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And he knows that Hotform is playing double mirror entity version.
I love that Dread Steed animation, by the way. It's really cool looking, and obviously we're going to get to see a lot of it over the course of this game. But Divine Favor is pretty reasonable here. You're going to end up getting 3 cards off of it. You still have half of your mana pool to work with for the turn.
Yep, that Secret Keeper is going to allow Zoro to deal with potential mirror entry quite easily. Yep, and there it is.
Yeah,
All right.
that Divine Favor ultimately paid off for Zoro pretty handsomely.
Yeah, definitely a good pick up there.
So the strategy for Zoro is you can think about killing the 1-2, but on the other hand, you also want to be aggressive and really deal a lot of damage. Mage should not have a way to heal itself, so this will be a race. On the other hand, Hotform is running 1 Flame Strike, I believe, so turn 7 is coming really fast.
Yeah, but it's not turn 7 yet, so Hotform could wait for a little bit here and not go for the Azure Drake just yet. But there could be something like Arcane Missiles coming as well, so because of that, he might just want to clear the Drake already.
Yeah, and obviously if this game goes too long, you know, Hotform will find stuff like Archmage Antonidas or Nexus Champ Sarad, which will allow him to win in the late game over the Paladin, even with something as powerful as a serious challenger. So Zoro kind of has to be considered that. Still feels he's in early enough stages where he can make some trades, try to get stuff like Azure Drake off the board, and we see Flame Waker now in the hand of Hotform.
Yeah, they have Flameworker comes. A lot of spells have been used, but there's still this Arcane Intellect that will work with it.
Interesting decision from Zoro to not use the weapon to help out with the clears. He could have saved 1 more recruit, but he values his life total higher than the extra.
They're very replaceable, so he can make more.
Yeah, that's true. But it does cost some mana.
Ooh, that is... Okay, so Mirror Image with Flame Waker be very, very powerful against a board full of 1/1s.
Yeah, it's really good versus the 1/1s and also very good versus the weapon classes. So if Hotform is able to clear the board at some point, he will be able to block True Soul Champion attacks with those 0-2.
I want to say we're up to 3 points of damage now from the Dreadsteed. I will be absolutely tickled if Dreadsteed ends up being the deciding factor in this game because it cleared off Divine Shields.
That's kind of a deciding factor. I think it's piling up.
Yeah, it's just going to sit there and continue to be a nuisance.
Yeah, seems like this game is going to go on for quite a while. Zoro still at full HP while Hotform at 21 and a good amount of things on his side of the board.
Yeah, we also see Hotform has Water Elemental in hand, and that's another card where I was talking about earlier when Tempo Mage players are kind of building their lists. They have, you know, obviously at the 4-drop, usually you want to have something like Shredder. And we see, obviously, Water Elemental is a great choice for Hotform as it allows him to lock up enemy melee heroes. They can't use the weapons. Obviously, 3-6 stat line is super difficult for a lot of the current decks to get rid of. So Water Elemental is another one of those cards that Hotform just feels very strongly about is worth having in Tempo Mage that other players don't necessarily share that thought.
This is such a tricky turn for Zoro because if he goes for it, he knows there's the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist means there will be a secret. Secret is mirror entity. So if Hotform has a way to deal with all those minions, he will essentially block Tyrion from being played.
Absolutely, and that Mad Scientist is finding an excellent trade. Dealing with that juggler and getting the secret up, which will like you said, prevent Zoro from playing that extremely powerful Tyrion portrait.
And how can you not play Tyrion? There's Dr. Boom, you have to do something. Repentance is not, it's not going to help you at all.
No, but you can't play it. There's no way he can play it in the mirror entity.
You can kill the token with the weapon attack and then Blessing of Kings and kill Dr. Boom. So that's something.
It is, and it might be the option he chooses to go with because it's the least painful. Obviously, if you give your opponent Tyrion, you probably just lost there. But it is by no means an efficient play. He does not want to have to do this.
Can he go for face and try racing here?
I don't think so. All he has in hand is Tyrion. And, you know, 8 damage is certainly a lot of damage, but it's bound to be cleared next turn. There's no way that survives, so... I don't know. Steve, you think?
I think it's an interesting idea because Hotform does have way more cards in his hand than Zoro does. So desperate times call for desperate measures. So Zoro could have maybe tried to go for that and hope that the boom bots and the Thread Steed wouldn't had cleared the Shredder easily.
Such a bad spot for Zoro. Sitting on the Tyrion, he knows this is a mirror entity. The Dread Steed killing another dude, make even more damage.
Yep, Hotform going for, seems to be a Flame Waker and the Frostbolt.
Yeah, Repentance is going to change Flame Waker's health down to 1. Unless Zoro top decks a Consecration. Well, actually no, he can be pinged off by the Light's Justice, so.
Yeah.
That does make a fair bit of difference, although obviously Zoro is still in a really bad way.
There is redemption.
Oh, wow.
And this kind of goes back to why in the round of 40 and even the America's Championship, Secret Paladin was not popular. People were not bringing it. And the problem is exactly what's happening here. He's now at a point where he did not draw Mysterious Challenger. He's just drawing Secrets. And, you know, obviously you have certain cards you would like to draw at any given point in a deck, but the cards you don't want to be drawing as a Secret Paladin are so much worse than the cards you want to be drawing. And we see, you know, Repentance, Redemption, and they're not going to get it done for him, and he's already so far behind. So
Absolutely.
Secret Paladin, a little bit inconsistent, at least in this first match.
It happens from time to time, but is Zoro forced to go with the Redemption Tyrion here? If his Tyrion dies, he will get the Ashbringer, but there is that War Elemental.
I don't think there's any value at all in playing the Redemption. If he plays the Redemption, he counts Hero Power because the Silverhand Recruit would trigger the Redemption in that case.
I wonder.
Doesn't accomplish anything at all.
Well, if you play Redemption, you go for Tyrion.
Yeah, I would think so. But how can you go for it and give the mage an 8/8 with Divine Shield and
Ashbringer.
And Ashbringer, yeah.
It might finally be time for Nexus Champ Sarad to come down. Hotform has been very disciplined about not using it. Obviously, you know, he wants to explore what he thinks gives him better outs to just win the game, but I'm excited to see Nexus Champ Sarad. One of my favorite cards.
Yeah.
Great card from the Grand Tournament. We'll see what spell he gets. Probably not super relevant in this game because it looks like he's kind of got this one locked up, but... Oh, wow. So,
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of people will say like it's a random card because you get a random spell, but it is a spell you can actually use, and Flame Waker uses spells. So whatever you actually get, you will be able to get some value from it at least.
right. It obviously has great synergy with Flame Waker. It has synergy with Mana Worm. It has synergy with Sorcerer's Apprentice. So it fits in the deck perfectly. It's just also one of those cards where it generates additional resources. And Tempo Mage traditionally runs into an issue where they don't get it. And everybody in the board is putting their faith in the Lights. And then conceding.
All right, and that's it. Hotform takes game number 1, and he is in the lead with his mage. A really
You guys still have two shots to win it with those Kaka and Thijs, but
Yeah.
I got a Hotform as my last champion.
I'm rooting for Zoro though.
Wow. We'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, let's talk about it later, but we have game number 2 starting, Hotform versus Zoro, Rogue versus Paladin. Savitz, what can you tell me about this matchup?
Well, Rogue does have those Blade Flurries for strong board clears against the Paladin, so Rogue definitely has a fighting chance, but sometimes the minions are too sticky. There might be things like the Shielded Minibot, which can cause problems if you don't have an easy way to destroy those Divine Shields. And the Pilot Shredders, obviously. It can be tough to keep up with the Paladin at times.
Zoro has such a great opening hand. Robert,
Yeah.
what do you think about it?
Obviously, Rogue has tools to deal with something like Muster for Battle. Fan of Knives is a tremendous counter. 3 mana, you get to cycle a card, and you get all the menus off the board. Paladin keeps the weapon, but still, you're doing a lot of damage there. The ability to clear the board through stuff like Blade Flurry, very powerful. For the Rogue, where this matchup gets tricky, is stuff like Shielded Minibot, as he's pointing out. Kind of those stickier minions, Piloted Shredder, where you just don't necessarily get all of the cards you need to constantly keep clearing the board. We see Salsi Deckhand, and I think this is actually a very important card in this matchup, although Hotform just plays it now. But there is a world where sometimes you lose control of the board, and you just want to be able to Salsi Deckhand, play out the oil, go for the big swing turn where you close out the game right there. But he's using it to contest the board, which may actually prove to be incredibly wise here, as we see Zoro's opening hand is just stacked with 1 and 2 mana minions.
Yeah, I think it normally is a very good move to counter the aggro decks. But Savitz, you wanted to add something?
Personally, I like this type of approach to the matchup as a Rogue player. You don't really necessarily need to try to kill the Paladin as fast as you can, but go for more that board control type of strategy, where you just keep removing all the minions from the Paladin's side and eventually outvalue them in the late game with cards like Sprint.
Zoro is playing the Divine Favor version. We've seen the Divine Favor last game as well, so this is a card that may be key in this matchup. Zoro's strategy will be just to play all those minions and then try to play on curve. And he has a pretty good hand, I have to say. With Master of Paradox next turn, there is a Flurry, but do you Flurry this early?
Well, you don't want to flurry this early, but he might have to if he has no other play. But he does have the Piloted Shredder. Potentially he could also go Piloted Shredder, prep, and just do the flurry anyway, if Zoro is to play the Master of Battle here, which seems to be a reasonable play, especially since he has a second one in his hand right now.
Yeah, he also wants to have the coin for Mysterious Challenger, so it seems like that was the best play for the moment.
Yeah, turn 5 Mysterious Challenger is a play that can win the game alone.
Yeah, just getting all the secrets at the same point, just filtering your deck as well. So like your draws will be much better because there will be a lower chance to draw into the secrets.
I really like this play, by the way. He goes ahead, he plays down the Shredder, puts out the Blade Flurry. Obviously, that's not the optimal use for Blade Flurry, but since you have the prep, you have the ability to take control of the board, and he just wants to get it now, see how long he can hold on to it. I don't think he has any illusions that he's going to hold on to it for more than a few turns, because obviously this brand of Paladin is so good at populating the board.
Yep, Hotform has chosen the tempo style of play here, and second sprint, not at all what he was looking for. What Hotform really needed was more minions for his next turns.
Yeah, but he's still using tempo plays, and now the big question is, do you expect the second sap? And even if there is a second sap, Mysterious Challenger still seems pretty good.
Wow, all 5 secrets.
Avenge, Redemption, Repentance, Combative Spirits, and the last one being Noble Sacrifice.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, that's it. Here at World Championships, Merry Christmas from Paladin.
You know what you never want to find under the tree is Uther? Like, I wanted a bike, not Uther. Unfortunately, that is exactly what Hotform has found, and his hand kind of dictates that he has to sap here, and he could even go so far as to apply the oil afterwards. But the problem is, you know, you're not really getting that much done.
The good news, he is actually countering Avenge for this, because the 6/6 is getting buffed, and then he can sap it up for him. But Mysterious Challenger can just calm down next turn. Bring Avenge again.
Another Avenge will come afterwards. It's interesting to see if he chooses to go for the oil here. Oil is an expensive card, and it would allow him to push for a little bit of extra damage here, but it would only buff 1 charge from the weapon, so he chooses to just re-equip the dagger in this situation.
The problem with that would be also that Competitive Spirit. So Competitive Spirit will buff the 2/1, so if you it will contest the Shredder.
Oh yeah, now he at least needs to use that Light Justice to finish off the Shredder.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, his hand is extremely good. Just play down that Mysterious Challenger again if he wants to. He's Dr. Boom next turn. This is more the Secret Paladin experience I'm sure most of us have seen.
Unless that's Weblord.
What a pickup from that Shredder. He gets a Sorcerer's Apprentice. That could potentially allow him to cast something extra from the sprint, but both saps are already played, so that won't be happening. And Eviscerate is not enough to remove that Mysterious Challenger.
Yeah, like double sap is out, so a rogue is really good versus Paladin, not only because he can clear the board, but also because it can sap Tyrion when Tyrion lands. But now without any saps, how's he gonna deal with Tyrion?
The interesting decision to go for that attack here. It will allow Zoro to get the buff on that Mysterious Challenger and also get that extra 2/1 from the Redemption.
That's actually giving +5 attack, I believe, because you have
It's quite a bit.
Competitive Spirit as well.
Wow. That
How much damage
might
is that
backfire
even?
a little bit. That's going to be so much damage. He's going to trade down for that second noble sacrifice there. Competitive Spirit only triggering on 1 minion right now, so that's definitely good for Hotform. Lothep from the top.
Wow, yeah, with Lothep, he can actually seal the spells, even though...
Dr. Boom also is 7 mana, Dr. Boom in the hand.
Such a great situation. He has that Blessing of Kings to buff whatever he wants afterwards. He decides to go with the Lothep, blocks the attack with the Anarchan as well, so switches off the weapons, switches off the spells. And even though this is a bad matchup for Paladin, Zoro is in a great spot here.
Yeah, looks like the game is over. With that Lothep, Hotform won't be able to cast any of those spells aside from the preparation.
And that's a tie. It's 1-1, Zoro versus Hotform. Zoro All right, guys. Game number 3 is starting right now. Hotform versus Zoro. Druid versus Rogue. So it's not a Druid, Robert. How do you feel about Druid versus Rogue, though?
So traditionally, this matchup has kind of been one where the Rogue kind of skulks around, waits for the moment, and then uses a key sap to kind of put out a big tempo play, suddenly change it up with an oil, Blade Flurry, win the game. I think the only thing that's really changed for this matchup is the inclusion of Darnassus Aspirant into Druid, which has made the Druid a lot more consistent in terms of like how it ramps up its mana. But I still feel like Rogue more than has a shot at this one, so it kind of just depends on what Hotform can get going in the early game.
All right. Savitius, do you think it's exactly like that, or do you have something like that?
Well, I kind of tend to favor the Druid in this matchup. I think Druid just, if there's a wild growth, if there's innervates, it can be difficult for the Rogue. There's not always a preparation sap available.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Druid has access to the ramp elements. We can already see the wild growth in opening hand for Zoro.
Interesting decision. Also choosing to keep the low tap in the starting hand. Knows that rogues have a lot of spells, so that might pay off. But he did risk not drawing any of those earlier minions.
And he risk paid off. He's got Innervate now. He can Innervate out the Shade if he wants to, play the Wild Growth on the next turn, start curving out toward it. He hopes so probably 4 drops, at the very least Lotheb he has in hand. So I think he's in a very good spot. And if he gets this Shade of Naxxramas out early enough, there's a very real chance that the Rogue won't be able to actually reasonably contest it before it does damage.
Yeah, that's starting hand from Zoro. Absolutely amazing. Turn 1 Shade into the Wild Growth. He doesn't have a turn 4 play just yet, but he does have a couple of draws to potentially find one.
On the other hand, Hotform's hand is not terrible. He got that sap for the early turns, and he will be able to play a 4-drop on turn 3. He got the coin, which will be important for him.
Yep. And there's the Wild Growth. His decision, though, there was nothing else to cast. And Hotform, he does have the Teacher and the sap, but no preparation. That's one of the most powerful plays you can make against the Rogue on the early turns.
Double sap again.
Shade of Naxxramas doesn't always feel good to play against a Rogue because what you're immediately concerned about is something like Deadly Poison, Blade Flurry, that kills it before it ever gets a chance to do something relevant. But as we see, due to the pacing of when it came out, it's going to have so many turns just sit there and grow bigger and bigger, and obviously reaches a point where you're just not going to be able to kill it with AoE anymore, and that's where things really get scary for the Rogue.
Yeah, exactly. Because of the Savage or Force of Nature combo, that normally it deals force and damage, but if you have such a big Shade, it can be even more than 1 turn kill.
Yeah, it does extend the reach quite a bit. Darnassus Aspirant, not the 4 mana play that Zoro was looking for, but it was still something to play. And Hotform going for a coin, Pilot Shredder.
Yeah, that's absolutely nice minion. If you would get a backstab, you'll be able to play that Aspirant. But even for Zoro, this Darkness Aspirant is not doing much, but it's still a minion, as you mentioned, being damaged to face. And this is a race now.
Yeah, strong play from Zoro, recognizing that with the load up effect, there's no spells that Hotform can cast at 4 mana.
Oh,
that's effectively 10 damage from the Shade. And not only that, but it also dealt with the front half of Hotform Shredder.
So much damage coming from Zoro. He has 7 now with this Force of Nature that will be 13. But he's going for the Ancient Lord to draw the cards. And he can, from this spot, can probably even go for face. He is the one racing, he has the minions. If there's a board clear, he still has the lore.
I want to point out real quick that obviously Zoro chose to bring out that Shade and attack for the last turn, and one of the big considerations is he was on 6 mana if the Darnassus Aspirant, if the Darnassus Aspirant stays alive, he goes to 7 mana, he can play the Ancient of Lore that is actually in his hand at the time. More importantly, bringing the Shade out means that there's a target Hotform feels like he has to get rid of immediately. He has to just stem the bleeding. He does not want that to keep growing. And it basically kind of provides soft cover for the Darnassus Aspirant. So the Aspirant survives, he gets to play the Ancient of Lore, and he is in such a good spot right now. I actually am not super sure what Hotform can even do. He needs to get a preparation, he needs to get a Blade Flurry.
Yeah, it's really hard for Rogue to come back from this situation. Web Lord?
Well, that doesn't really help him right now. None of the minions in Zoro's hand have a battle cry. So, won't do anything. There's the second combo piece for Zoro.
Yeah, Savage Roar, and he can even play some minions now. He doesn't have to
or
go...
Wild Growth. He could go Shredder and Wild Growth to be able to combo on the following turn.
That's so good.
Hotform cleared the board, but it's very deceptive. He is obviously in every kind of danger still because of the fact, as we see in hand, Force of Nature Savage Roar is going to finish him off unless Hotform has some kind of healing, which, if I remember the list correctly, he does not.
And this shows the power of the Druid deck. You get Innervate on the first turn, get the Shade a bit earlier, Wild Growth to be able to get 1 extra mana crystal, and then another Wild Growth to get 1 more mana crystal. So Zoro will be effectively at 9 crystals with the combo, where Hotform only had 6.
Hotform doing his best to slow down Zoro, but it is too late. Zoro already has that Force of Nature and Savage Roar combo, and he's going to take a lead in this series.
Hotform does have a heal bot in there, as I recall now, but he didn't have it then. It doesn't matter, and this is going to be really quick game Zoro for game 3, and Zoro's going to go up 2-1 on Hotform.
Yeah, there's so much damage coming, so 2-1. Wow. Now Zoro only needs to win with his Face Hunter.
Yeah, and obviously, that's not equal to the task of trying to win this game.
Absolutely.
And
All right.
he's going to go with the Druid first, as we expected. And Zoro looking at double 1-drops with the coin. A little bit early for kill command, but definitely a strong looking hand.
So Savitsi mentioned this matchup is a bit better than the Rogue matchup. How do you feel about it? Why is it so good?
Well, there are a reasonable amount of taunts in the Druid, like for example, Druid of the Claw and the board clear of Druid being the swipe deals with those 1 toughness minions quite efficiently. So he does have a decent chance. I wouldn't favor the Druid at least too much, but it definitely does do way better than the Rogue.
Robert, how do you think Darnassus as Aspirant changes matchup?
I think the only consideration it gives is that obviously if you don't kill the Darnassus Aspirant, you're inviting them, especially early on, to ramp up something to like Keeper of the Grove, Druid of the Claw, but it really depends how committed Zoro is to that line of just going for the face, and I think we'll see what the last card he gets is, but I have to imagine just based on the opening 2 1-drops, yeah, and the Wolf Rider, I don't think it would matter too much, although we see the Darnassus Aspirant now, so he will have to make that decision.
Yeah, that's a great card to have, but there's Eagle Hornbow that will help us to counter it.
Yeah, I gotta wonder if that changes the play of playing both 1-drops right now.
Yeah, if Hotform chooses to go with the Aspirant, the coin bow is going to deal with it. So if Hotform is thinking about that, he might go for the Wild Growth first. But it is very tempting to play the Aspirant first because it does contest that 2-1 minion on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And even though Hotform has those ramp elements, he has Wild Growth and he has Darnassus Aspirant, he has Savage Roar and Force of Nature, which will be useless in the very beginning of the game.
Yep. And with that coin being spent from Zoro, Zoro doesn't actually have a turn 2 play as it is.
I really like this. We've seen a couple of different variations from the Chinese players as far as the established decks, and their version of Face Hunter.
Wow.
What a draw.
Yeah, Mad Scientist is not only important because that's a great card to play on turn 2. It will provide Zoro with one of the secrets from his deck.
He does still have a decision here. Does he want to clear that Aspirant to take away the mana crystal and the potential of swipe, or is he going to go for face?
I don't think you can at this point. If you can make a somewhat inefficient trade to get rid of it, although he's going to do it.
He is doing it.
That feels like a lot given away for that. And what are you looking? You're worried on 4 about swipe. You're worried about Keeper of the Grove. Maybe you're also considering that turn 5 comes quicker, but
Shredder, maybe also.
yeah. It still just feels bad when the problem is Druid gets to a point where the walls come up, you can't really get through them reliably, and then you're kind of just relying on kill commands, you're relying on quick shots. The hero power is obviously very powerful, but Druid can just run you back over with the combo. So yeah, we see that Druid of the Claw come out, and suddenly Zoro's life is a lot harder.
Yep.
Well, he gets a quick shot, so he will be able to deal with the Druid of the Claw.
And play a Scientist. So that's not too bad. Let's get a little bit of damage into. It would be nice for Zoro to be drawing that extra card, but he can't really be holding on to the quick shot for now.
It's not necessarily that it's too bad, it's just when you're playing specifically as a deck that is, I guess, as precise in its goal as Face Hunter, it's kind of one of those things where anytime you're using one of those direct damage spells to deal with something like a Druid of the Claw, and you're putting it into a Druid of the Claw with, in addition, a second minion or a second source of damage, it just feels really bad. It's not something you want to do, and you know, he dealt with the Darnassus Aspirant. He was trying to stop that from happening, and then the Wild Growth came out. Nothing he can do on that. Obviously, he did everything in his power to keep Druid of the Claw off the board, but it still just feels bad, especially when you look at his hand, you see a bow, you see a kill command. Emergency coolant is not super relevant.
I love that play, by the way, Robert. Force of Nature here. Instead of just going for a minion that will not do anything, you go with the Force of Nature, deal with both Mad Scientist and with Explosive Chop, so he's denying that.
Yeah, very strong play from Hotform. Force of Nature can be tricky to use sometimes against the Face Hunter, but he got the maximum there.
Absolutely. And now to Zoro, he can play that bow to deal damage. Maybe he'll decide to use the hero power instead of playing Worgen Infiltrator, just to use hero power every turn. That Worgen should deal 2 damage at some point.
And it's super critical that he weaves in these hero powers. Since he's so low on cards at this point, obviously Emergency Coolant is a card, but it's not going to do a whole lot for him, at least for what he's trying to accomplish. So it's very good that he's weaving in these hero powers. Would like to probably find a beast next turn so his kill command does more.
Oh yeah, oh, an explosive trap. That could potentially give him an extra charge to that Eaglehorn bow if he chooses not to use it this turn.
And it's interesting because you can say to yourself, well, I'm just not going to play into the explosive trap. But again, if the hero powers are coming in every turn, you're just consistently taking damage. Hunter puts you on a clock and you have to address it.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to buy some time with that coolant. But this game is not decided yet. I feel like Hotform can still have an opening to take it.
Oh, definitely. If he draws into another taunt, instead of lore maybe. Oh, Harrison Jones from the top.
Oh, Explorers League. Well, Harrison Jones is not a part of Explorers League, but he is an explorer and he is taking that bow here. He can even swipe if he wants to deal with the 2-1 and limit the damage even more.
Zoro
I
losing
like
his
play.
weapon.
I like that play.
Not only losing his weapon, but his minion, and that's a lot of damage to face as well. Wolf Rider from the top, that does...
That's a great draw.
More, yeah.
It's actually not enough, and this means that Hotform should be able to take with the Drill of Acquires a Charger and Savage Roar. There'll be so much damage, just 10 damage from Savage Roar, and then on the board it will be 20, 25 at least.
Yeah, and this is why, even though it always looks bad for the Druid, you have to kill the Druid very quickly, or else the Druid just runs you back down. Since you're not trading out the minions, Savage Roar comes out, and it just gets bad.
Yep, and we are going to have a game 5.
Yeah, game 5, Hotform takes game number 4 and ties the series. What an amazing play. He was so low on health, but he still takes it. Wow.
Hotform very quickly identifies that that's the win condition. Obviously no stranger to it.
Who is the biggest confidence?
I mean, Hotform is obviously, you ever talk to Hotform? Hotform is extremely confident in Hotform, so he does not lack for that. He's I want to say almost borderline, he comes off almost as arrogant at times, actually, about how good he thinks he is and how far he can go in this, which is great. It is better to have an abundance of confidence than none at all, but I think Hotform just has to, realize, as I said earlier, he can't really be using the dagger to clear minions. He has to be using the leveraging things like SI7 Agent, Eviscerate, go for the oil kill. I think keeping Salcy deckhand and kind of using it as he did earlier against Seeker Paladin is a very good way to get the board early, and I would be surprised if he tossed that away.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see the hands and the mulligans. Hotform is thinking about keeping this. So, Savitz, what do you think about his hand?
Well, the Salty deckhand and the agent should probably be kept. He might be considering the Eviscerate in case of an animal companion. Low tap, a tiny bit small. I mean, a tiny bit slow against the hunter, so he probably won't be keeping that one.
It's really important that he got that coin, right? SI7, yeah, deckhand.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And he does replace the Eviscerate as well, because the coin is most likely going to be used on the SI agent, in which case comboing off the Eviscerate would be difficult.
On the other hand, Zoro has a really aggressive opening with the Leper Gnome and the follow-up with Mad Scientist or Knife Juggler. So, Robert, do you like this hand from Zoro?
Yeah, I mean, I made a comment earlier. The Face Hunter list that the Chinese players have been running is so refined in terms of what it wants to do. It just has an abundance of one-drops. You never have to worry about not having your one-drop on curve. And I feel like I've seen this from both Zoro and DieMeng. Like, every time they played their Face Hunter decks, they just always have one-drops. And in fact, most of the time they have two, and it allows them to coin and get a very aggressive start. So I like this opening. Now, playing the Knife Juggler automatically guarantees that Hotform is going to have either backstab or coin SI7 agent, because
it always happens, right?
It's a Knife Juggler. It's meant to die.
Yeah. And there it is. That is the perfect SI agent, getting it to land it on the Knife Juggler. It's good even on a Mad Scientist, but when you kill off a Juggler with it, obviously there won't be anything left behind. Zoro with the Eaglehorn bow. That's also very nice. One of the better casts against the Rogue.
I really like the attack into the minion. Eagle Hover is great to deal with the minions and to protect your own. In this situation, Zoro doesn't have any minions, unfortunately for him. But calling the aggression. And versus Rogue, when you play, Rogue really wants to get the tempo as a tempo deck, and killing their minions and denying possible buffs is actually really good.
It's a good understanding from Zoro that, Oil Rogue isn't running a ton of minions, so once you kind of chase off their SI7 agent, you chase away the Paladin Shredder, Lothebs and Azure Drakes, it's kind of it. We saw obviously Ostaka is running Edward Van Cleef, but that's more of an outlier and an exception to the rule than what is standard in an oil rogue list.
Yep, Zoro with double kill commands in his hand. That does give a lot of reach to finish the game, but he needs to get some damage in before getting to use those for the lethal. Hotform going for an aggressive zap here on that 2-drop. He recognizes that his opponent is playing a fast version, so there most likely won't be anything better.
Also going with the Thanos that we mentioned before, that for Hunter, it's actually really hard to deal 1 damage only.
Right.
So attacking into the Thanos with the weapon seems a bit awkward.
Now, I like that whole sequence from Hotform. I think the sap's fine. You don't have to worry about something like an Abusive Sergeant coming down and buffing it up to do even more damage. You can put down the Thalnos, which again, it's a 1-1, but it helps you not only cycle towards something else, it boosts your Blade Flurry if you have to use it, it boosts the backstab, because realistically, there's actually a very slim chance it dies. It will probably stay to the next turn, so you're getting something on the board that can battle and take out an Abusive Sergeant, take out a 1-health minion, so I really like it for Hotform. Again, it's a very high IQ play and a good understanding of what he has to do to win this.
Yep, definitely a strong play. And here Mad Scientist comes down again, choosing to go for the hero power over the Eagle Horn bow, wanting to maximize the face damage.
Yeah, Zoro realizes that he needs to be very aggressive and he has a lot of reach with the kill commands. Also, the second bow means that he needs to use the one somehow, and attacking the minion doesn't seem that great. So Explosive Traffic gonna come down, kill the Thalnos, deal 2 more damage to Hotform.
It's important he got rid of that trap right now, because the second Eagle Horn bow is more than likely coming out next turn, which is going to be really problematic, or which would have been actually really problematic if Hotform had gotten the extra value, or Zoro had gotten the extra value off of the explosive trap. So even as well as Hotform has been playing this, he is already down to less than half health.
Actually, Zoro should win this game in 2 turns. So for Hotform, it's a big question. How do I win faster, or how do I stop my opponent from killing me?
Oh, the big game hunter that he brought in, obviously, as a tech preference is not going to help him get there.
Oh,
That's going to help him, though. That is a huge draw for him.
Huge card.
Picks up the antique heal, but the best possible card he could have hoped for in this situation. Seems like he's not going to go for it just yet. He recognizes that Zoro is very unlikely to be able to deal the 14 just yet, so the heal bot can be delayed for 1 turn.
Actually, isn't this lethal? There is 2 damage from the dogs, 5, 7. Kill command is +5, which
oh my
12.
goodness.
This is 14 damage with Abusive Sergeant. And just like that, because he didn't play around this specific combination, Zoro is counting a couple of times just to be sure exactly that he has lethal. And if we count it properly, that's exit lethal. Just going through the motions, he has to be absolutely sure. Is it enough? Is it enough?
It actually is not.
This is not enough.
He's 2 damage off right now, so he will have to wait for another turn here. He could even choose to go for a trade here with one of the dogs.
Unleash, yeah, but he can also use one of the kill commands because he has 2 of them.
Yeah, this is it's not quite lethal. It is very close, and you know, Hotform, very, very smart. Obviously playing around what he thought the maximum amount of damage could be, factoring in the bow and the hero power, but this is still not a great situation because it's not as if anti-Killbot is getting you, it's getting you 8 health. That's
does
really
help
not much.
quite a bit.
Right.
It just might be enough. He plays the heal, but heals back to 30, and it's very hard for Zoro to deal that much. Also goes down to 7. Zoro might be down to his last card. It's going to be a Walk and Infiltrator.
This is not gonna help, so it means that Hotform has it at 7 points of damage unless he kills the heal bot. But then, like, how do you win?
Look, he has to go for it. That's the only way to stay in the game right now. But even then, Hotform can sprint for another Eviscerate or a
Deadly poison, a stiff breeze, anything will do it at this point. Oh.
This game is so close. How much damage is their next turn? 7. Not enough as well, and Hotform can.
An Eviscerate off the top would end it.
That's not helpful.
Yeah, it's time to go right for that sprint. See if he can find the second Eviscerate. See if he can find the Deadly Poison.
Deadly Poison is also finishing the game. That's 1 more. Oh,
that's it.
No weapon required, buffing the Azure Drake up to 7 power.
And that's
Hotform
it.
is going to win. He is going to take the series in the best of 5 in the final quarterfinals match of the day.